Part 2, Air Combat, Third World War. This is an air unit. It typically has a profile. Here's the range of the air unit. You've got short, medium, long, and unlimited. Short-range units can only conduct operations in their own area, and they cannot conduct deep attacks against an opponent. Medium can. Long range can attack outside of its region to an adjacent region. So if you're deployed in Central Europe, you can deploy that air unit to conduct operations in Scandinavia or in the southwest over Yugoslavia and Italy. N indicates nuclear capability, so it's worthwhile reserving a couple of airplanes. Eth is for stealth. When a stealth airplane is engaged, 50% of the time it cannot be attacked. These are the three important combat ratings. You've got an air superiority rating, a ground attack rating, and a strike rating. And these are each associated with asterisks. If there's an asterisk, then this aircraft has all-weather performance. This is important because there can be different types of weather. Clear has no effect. Overcast, storm, and then severe storm have increasingly negative gradations of effects on aircraft. If an aircraft has all-weather capability, it performs much better than an aircraft that does not. Furthermore, on the back of an aircraft counter is a maintenance number, which is the number that must be rolled equal to or less than in a turn in order to return the airplane to operational status. So it's basically aircraft maintenance man hours in order to get the airplane to be up to operational standards. Air combat is fairly not complex, but more detailed than the ground combat component. This is a typical air combat chart. There are 7 of them for the different parts of the map. The most complex one is the one for Central Europe, Western Europe, which is indicated by this one here. And it's got different boxes. You've got the air superiority box, the availability box, the flown box, the shot down box, the grounded box, and then there's a crater track. This other section here is for the Southwestern Theater, which comprises Italy and Yugoslavia, and we're not going to be using it here. This is the NATO component of it, and this is the Soviet component of the Western Theater. This is a very, very dense theater. The initial move by a player at the beginning of a turn is to deploy aircraft from the availability box into the air superiority box. The Russians deploy first. The Americans and NATO, because they have AWACS, they deploy second. And whichever country in a front has more aircraft in the air superiority box, they have air superiority. And that gives them one basic privilege, which is that they're able to assign 2 aircraft on escort and top cover and interception instead of just 1 aircraft. So it does have a bit of an advantage. Air combat resolved quite simply. Here there is the air combat table. And in instances in which 2 aircraft fight each other, you would take the 2 aircraft. I'll take here one French aircraft and a Soviet aircraft. And you would determine which aircraft has the higher air-to-air rating. Now in this particular case, both aircraft have a value of 4, so the attack occurs simultaneously. So you simply take this column, which refers to their value, and you roll on it, and there's 4 possible outcomes. There is H, which means the aircraft continues to function, but its function is at half. This is not particularly useful for air combat, but if you were to intercept and attack an aircraft that was trying to do a bombing mission, its values would be halved. There is abort, where the aircraft is immediately relocated to the flown box, so it's finished its mission, it cannot continue. There is SH, which is shot down and halved, but its shot down effect is not applied until after it's conducted its mission at half value. And finally, there's SX, which is shot down immediately. Now, if an aircraft is conducting an attack on a ground unit, it must survive air defense fire. And air defense fire depends on not the strength of the aircraft or the ground. It's a very sort of abstracted system. It depends on the type of mission being conducted, whether it's ground attack, strike interdiction, runway cratering, logistic strikes, or an airborne assault, parachuters. So what we'll do now is review the different combat types that an aircraft can conduct. We'll later discuss when these are conducted in a particular a phase of a turn. So the different operations that an aircraft can conduct are air superiority missions, and these include top cover, which is combat air patrol. You put the airplane on top of a piece of geography like a city, and you want to intercept other aircraft that are coming in. There's interception, where a mission's been conducted on the map. You take airplanes from the air superiority box, and then you deploy them on that location to fight and try to stop the airplanes that are coming in. And finally, there is escort, where if you're conducting an attack mission, airplanes that want to bomb a target on the ground, you have an airplane that flies along as escort. And again, if you had achieved air superiority in the air superiority phase by having more airplanes in the air superiority box, you can deploy 2 aircraft instead of 1 on that mission. Now, the next type of operation is the strike mission. These are deep missions because, in theory, they occur deep within enemy territory, so they can only be conducted by aircraft with medium range or longer range. And what is done is you would take dice. If you were doing a logistical strike, you would roll the dice a number of times equal to the aircraft's rating for a strike, which is their final value. In this case, for this aircraft, it would be a value of 2. And you total up the numbers, and then you divide by 2. And then that many brigades of the enemy will be unsupplied this turn. So you're basically blowing up bridges and supply trains. The enemy gets to choose which units will be out of supply. Another strike mission is cratering. Cratering involves flying over an airfield, dropping Durandal bombs, putting holes into the airport so it can't function as an airbase. Again, this uses the value for strike. And here you would roll a dice for every value that the aircraft has. In this case, the French aircraft's got a value of 2, so you'd roll 2 dice. If you rolled a 5, a 4, or 5, you would crater the airfield. And if you rolled a 6, an aircraft would be immediately destroyed. If an airfield is cratered, it'd be recorded here. And what that means in the subsequent turn, that many aircraft would be removed and put into the flown box. In other words, they would not be available for flight because they were disrupted while they were on the airfield. Every turn, the number of craters per front are reduced by a 1d6 die roll, and sort of standard across the different states. Another mission is the Interdiction Mission, which uses the attack function. And what this does is all units that are in a particular hex are attacked by the capacity of the aircraft. And you roll a number of dice equal to the value of that attack, which is the ground attack rating. And the ground attack rating, if you rolled a 5 or 6, you would place onto that map a disruption marker. And that disruption marker stays there for an entire turn. So any unit passing through there, or any unit that is there, would have that value inflicted on them. And that also inflicts a -1 movement point. So you're blowing up bridges and you're blowing up targets in that hex. And finally, there is a ground support, which is a very important mission, and probably the penultimate aircraft for this is the A-10 and the Sukhoi 25 Soviet aircraft. When these aircraft are deployed, they modify the odds of attack by that many columns. So if you're attacking a ground combat, a 2-to-1 combat, and an A-10 comes in with 4, it goes from 2-to-1 to 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1, 6-to-1. That's a significant change in the number of odds. Finally, you can conduct airborne operations, and airborne operations can be escorted. The number of air points are a first-come, first-serve across the entire game. The Warsaw Pact has a total of 36 brigades that they can drop in any turn, and the rules for what kind of units they can drop, typically airborne, are listed in the rules. And NATO has 17 in each of its movement phases. So NATO's actually got 34. But the Soviets can concentrate theirs in one turn or another. So they have a total of 36 for a given turn. So this is the basic nuts and bolts of ground combat, of air combat.